Today, I want to talk about a couple different things happening early on in the new summer split, mostly to do with the meta that I think are pretty interesting for discussion. So, the first thing is the emergence of a new jungle meta, specifically with AP junglers. We've seen Zyra jungle, we've seen Karthus jungle, we've seen Diana, Brand, Maokai, and Sejuani are back. Teams are starting to shift away from the early game junglers like Nidalee, Lee Sin, and Xin Zhao and play more toward the hard farm, hard scaling, long range kind of champions. Now, I'm really pleased with this. These are the kind of champions that I've been encouraging for a long time, especially Karthus. This champion has been absolutely turbo broken for a long time, and no one's really played him until now. So I got to wondering, what is the reasoning for this brand new jungle shift in the meta? So the first thing I thought of, well, Blackfire Torch is in the game, and a lot of these champions, Karthus, Zyra, Brand, use that item ridiculously well. So maybe that's a reason for it. Another reason is the emergence of AD mid laners, Tristana and Corki being the two primary ones. Yone has also been seeing some play as well. So AP jungle, AD mid balance each other out very well. Notice that the consistent themes here between all these champions are range and scaling. The two best things you can have in a draft, in my opinion. And the last reason I think that AP junglers are becoming popular, specifically AP junglers that farm ridiculously fast, is the jungle XP changes. Now, I'm not going to read them or list them or anything. I don't even know completely what they did, to be honest. All I know is that they made it so junglers aren't going to be falling significantly behind in XP anymore. If you've watched competitive in years past, by the 20, 25, 30 minute mark, junglers were falling significantly behind the solo laners and the ADCs because they would consistently be sacrificing resources to scale the ADCs. Bot laners are fed so many resources in competitive, it's crazy to make sure they scale, and that would come at the expense of the jungler most of the time. So these jungle XP changes remedied that to a large degree, making it so that they scale better into the game in terms of experience, and their base power is just going to be stronger more consistently. So that's the reason, I think the core reason for why these types of junglers are being picked more often. The other two being AD mid laners and Blackfire Torch, I think are secondary reasons. I really think the driving reason behind this jungle meta shift is the XP changes. But hey, I'm really happy about it. I think that these champions are long overdue to be played in competitive, especially Karthus and Brand. These champs have been really good for a while. I'm really just waiting for Fiddlesticks at this point because he's the last one in that little AP jungle grouping that's been really OP but largely ignored for a long time. So I'm really hoping we get a Fiddlesticks jungle pick here soon. The second thing I wanted to talk about was the support meta. I think it's super bland and super delusional. Engaged supports, in my opinion, have just always been pretty overrated. They're easily countered in draft, they don't scale, and they're really inconsistent. Those are my big three problems. When I say that they're easily counterable in draft, okay, when you think about engaged supports, what's their biggest strength? It's their CC, right? Leona, Alistar, Nautilus, Blitzcrank, whichever one you want to name, their strength is CC. What counters CC? Black Shield. You can literally just pick Morgana into any of these champions and make them completely useless. If you don't want to, if you disagree with the Morgana take, okay, each of them have individual counter picks. Nautilus, you pick Braum into Nautilus, Nautilus is useless. You pick Janna into Alistar, Alistar is useless. You pick Morgana into Leona, Leona is useless. There are so many good, better champions that you can pick in the support role that have more consistent value and that just counter straight up these engaged supports that are being consistently picked. In addition, enchanters like the Janna, the Lulu, the Soraka, the Seraphine, the Sona. Why is no one playing Seraphine? Oh my goodness. These champions scale way better. Their ratios on their abilities are insane. By the time they have 2 or 3 support items, enchanter items, most likely like a Moonstone or a Redemption or an Ardent Censer, their shields and heals are absolutely ridiculous. I'm thinking mostly of Soraka, especially when she hits a level 11 ult, and a Lulu. One of the strongest bot lanes in the game right now is Kog'Maw Lulu, but no one plays it because pro teams have this diluted obsession with engaged supports. So enchanters scale better. Engaged supports are really easily counterable in draft. And I think that engaged supports are just really inconsistent and kind of have minimal value. If you think about a champion like Alistar, okay, he uses his headbutt pulverize combo, and then he's standing around the fight doing nothing for the next 8 seconds, waiting for his combo to come back up. If you compare that to a Soraka or a Lulu, who's constantly pumping out heals and shields on a 2 to 3 second cooldown that are constantly buffing up your ADC, like which one would you really realistically rather have? Occasionally you see a really nasty Alistar flank that hits a really, really nice combo, but the consistency from enchanters and the scaling from enchanters is always going to be better, in my opinion. I think that, I'm not saying that these engaged supports don't have a place in the game. They're pickable, they have opportunities to be picked in competitive, but I think very largely, the majority of the time, enchanters are just flat out better. And I was talking before about counters to these melee supports. You can also just flat out pick AP supports in the bot lane, like you would see in solo queue, things like Brand, Vel'Koz, Xerath, things like this, just straight up destroy these melee supports in lane. They're not going to be able to play the game because they'll be poked down immediately, and they won't be in range of you because you're long range. So overall, I think the support meta is super misled, and it's super bland to watch as well. These champs are boring to watch, and I just don't think they're very good. I don't know why teams have been ignoring enchanters for so long. I'm pretty sure the last time we saw enchanters consistently was back in 2022, I want to say, when it was the Zeri Sivir meta, and we saw Zeri Sivir, Lulu, Yuumi traded pretty much every game. But champs like Soraka, Janna, Taric, Sona, Karma, these champions are so good and they're never played, and it consistently baffles me. I don't know why. They're really, really solid, much better than an Alistar or a Leona or a Nautilus would be, in my opinion. But hey, it is what it is. I trade off one good jungle meta for a not so good support meta. It's acceptable. The last thing I want to talk about in this video is why I think that scaling is better than not. I get a lot of comments saying, oh, I just say the same thing every single video, that scaling in range is better. I can agree with that, but there's also a reason that I say that. It's because it's true. And you can see that in the meta shift here. Why teams are playing toward range and scaling. Karthus, Trist, Varus on one side. Ashe, Corki, Zyra on the other side. It's full range, full scaling. The thing that I'm really happy about that this does is, since both teams have similar scaling and similar themes, it enters both teams on a similar, even playing field. So in the past, draft dips have been so enormous, you can basically tell who's going to win from the start. And that's no longer the case with these kinds of themes. Both teams enter on an even playing field. Neither team has a huge advantage or disadvantage. And what that does is make the game come down to player execution. And it makes the better team win more often than not, rather than having the champions picked determine the outcome of the game. That's really pleasing for me because, it's actually letting pro players be pro players instead of just having their draft decide the game, which had been the case for far too long. So I'm really hoping that these kinds of themes stay around in the draft for as long as possible, and we can continue to get evolutions of this kind of meta with people picking more scaling, range, team fight oriented comps. We have been getting more longer games that are going 30, 35 plus minutes. That's going to naturally happen with these kinds of champions. But I think, again, that's good because it forces these teams to focus more on player execution, communication, team fight dynamics, being on the same page. It's just really healthy for everyone involved. And I think that the diversity in it of itself as a fan is really fun to watch in the first place. So overall, why do I think scaling is better? Is because it's more consistent, it's guaranteeing value inside of the game, and it's really just that. It's guaranteeing your value. If you pick full early game champs, Nidalee, Renekton, Lucian, you're not guaranteeing your value. If you don't get insanely ahead, there's a point where you're going to be useless. Even if you do get super ahead, there's a point where you're going to be useless compared to enemy ADC who's full hyperscaling. if you're playing Lucian versus Jinx, even if your Lucian's 3-0, the Jinx is going to be more relevant than you come 3 items, come 30 minutes in the game, and that's inevitable. And so that's why I think scaling is better, is because it's more consistent and it guarantees your value. There's no coin flipping early. There's no, okay, well, we have to do this. There's no pressure on you to make real big plays early. You can just chill, have one specific goal in the game, and play toward that. So that was a lot of information spewed at once. Let me know what you guys think about, current meta, in the jungle, support, whatever it might be. It's been a pretty exciting start to the split for me to watch. I don't know what worldwide people are playing, what other regions are playing. I'm just talking about what I've seen in LCS and LEC. Has been pretty cool in terms of jungle diversity picks and more scaling, range-oriented team comps, which I've been asking for a while. So it's really exciting for me to watch. Thanks for watching. See you next time.